Hey everybody, Nate Bayer, GX3 Media here, welcoming you to our very first ever Black and White Wednesday. What is Black and White Wednesday? It's a thing I made up so we could post all of our photos in black and white. That's the plan for today. What I also want to do is take you behind the scenes so you can see some of our images in color and in black and white. And I'd like to discuss a couple of those. Now, the images I want to show are all from games I went to on Tuesday. I think it's important to see what I shot, what it looks like in color, and what the impact may be if it's in black and white. There are some successes and there are some probable failures. Anyways, to set the mood, we're also going to see if we can take this video and turn it black and white. Okay, cool. That's a different world to live in. Anyways, let's take a look at some of these images now, and I'll walk you through my creative process. All right, first up, we're going to start with a couple of action photos. I went to a couple soccer games. I'm going to start with this image. Again, I've got an Unalaska kid heading a ball. I was really lucky to get this shot in color, let alone try to fudge it in black and white. But why do I like this photo? Again, it's peak action. Number one, peak action, get that. Number two, he's pretty isolated. But this is a color version. Now, keep in mind, in this particular image, we have a white and purple jersey and a red and gold jersey. Honestly, the red and gold jersey is a little distracting, right? Well, now, if we flip this to black and white, boom! We've got the purple and white jersey turn into a white and gray jersey with a human figure that is light gray on top of a darker gray background. The action is more isolated. We're not distracted by the Sparta player on the side. Our eye goes right to the peak action and the facial expression. One of the things I'm going to talk about throughout Black and White Wednesday, the first ever Black and White Wednesday, mind you, is the mistake that I see most novice photographers make, or anybody that's sharing photos online, doesn't matter. They aren't necessarily using a true black and white. What they're doing is they're using grayscale. A grayscale image is not a black and white image. Let's go on to another image here. We're going to pick another action photo. Again, we're going to talk about this idea of black and white versus grayscale. Now, again, this isn't necessarily the strongest image for our black and white experiment, but you see here we've got a color version from our Toma Holman boys soccer game, and if we flip it, now we're in black and white. The downside is there's nothing happening in the sky, so the white Toma jersey melts into the white. There's such a dark side to the Holman jersey. It's kind of hard to read it's easy to read what's going on, but there's not enough contrast from the background with the one player. Again, having something in the background would help set this off a little bit better, especially because the Toma player melts into the background. Now, real quick, I talked about avoiding this just going to grayscale. Again, I use Adobe Lightroom. I play with some of the different functions to get a black is black and a light is light. If you're going to have an actual black and white image, you need your image to have the black is black and the light is light and everything kind of in between. If you just have a muddy gray throughout everything and you don't have that pure white, it's not going to look as impactful. Let's go back to some more images. So, we've talked about action. Action sometimes works really well in black and white and sometimes it doesn't. The same can be said for reaction photos. Volleyball gives us great reaction moments, and I had a number of those when I was at the Aquinas-Sparta match and the Luther-Westby match on Tuesday. So, the first image I'm going to show you is from the Sparta-Aquinas match. We have a great celebration in front of the Sparta bench. Again, we're talking about whitest white, blackest black. So when we flip this to black and white, she still pops out from the crowd. Now here's something else that works in her favor. Like I talked about with the soccer player, the header, our background falls off. It ends up melting away just a little bit. That depth of field helps to isolate our figure as well. So this figure, even though you can tell people are cheering and yelling behind her, they aren't distracting from the actual figure. And again, the white jersey helps to pull that out of that kind of grayish background. Let's take a look at this image from the Luther-Westby game. It is a fun image. There's a lot to unpack. But if we flip this to black and white, it doesn't hold the same impact. Most of it is because you can still see and read most of the faces in the crowd. they kind of distract from what should be the main event, which is a player and coach reacting to a ball that was hit out of bounds. But because the depth of field isn't quite there, you can still read that background probably a little bit too much. Is it a good black and white image? It works. What I like a lot, and whenever I go to Westby, I get a little extra noise because I have to turn the ISO up a little bit. So there's a little extra grit and grain in this image, which really kind of grounds that black and white look. It really does. It kind of gives it a little bit of maybe an old-fashioned look, but it adds a little texture to the photo, which I don't mind. I don't mind in black and white. I do mind it in color a little bit. Anyways, that's why I don't think this is the necessarily the strongest black and white image. It'll work, but it's not quite the strongest. The last thing I want to talk about are the small moments. Small moments typically look really good in black and white. Now, I'm going to share two images. First one is the Aquinas volleyball team standing for the national anthem. You've got your interlocked pinkies. However, I don't think you can really see the interlocked pinkies very well, so I might have to reevaluate my choices when I actually go through and cull this gallery. But what we have here, we've got a lot of flesh color because we have legs, we've got hands, but we also have this very dark blue. Now, in and of itself, it's probably okay, but if we want to really drive the sentimental side of this, we flip it to black and white. And now your jerseys all turn into a black. Your hands, which are in focus, again, we're going to talk about depth of field a lot, because the hands that are in focus are dead center, everything else leads to it. Again, using your leading lines, all of a sudden now our eyeballs are driven into the middle of this photo where that interlocked pinky should be happening. Again, you just can't really see the interlocked pinky. So you could, I'm assuming that their pinkies are interlocked, but their hands could just be next to each other. Again, I need to double check and really make a call in this photo when I go through it. The last image I want to show is from the Viroqua West Salem tennis match. Now, tennis, like golf, baseball, softball, maybe wrestling to some extent, gives you a lot of these little in-between moments, these very personal moments where you can get up close and personal with some of the players. And I think that telling those stories through the expressions on faces are really cool. Those quiet moments, those quiet in-between moments is what I like to call them. Baseball is probably my favorite for these, simply because you typically have some eye black, you've got the sun doing something, throwing some hard shadows. The black and whites look really strong. But here, I chose this one particular image as this Viroqua player prepares to serve. You have the racket in the foreground, you have her looking down at the ball, because we can't necessarily see the eyes. When we flip this to black and white, it becomes a very quiet, somber moment in a way. Maybe somber is a little too negative, but it's a quiet moment. But it tells an interesting story at the same time. What is she going to do? Is she going to serve? Did she just score a point? Is she in between matches? There's a lot of questions you could ask with an image like this. And there you have it, folks. 5 images in color and in black and white. Do you see how some work better in color and some work in that black and white? Again, thanks for joining us for this first ever Black and White Wednesday. Wait a second. There we go. Thanks again for joining us, GX3 Media, for the first ever Black and White Wednesday. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow all of our social accounts. If you take some of our ideas that we shared here and apply them to your own photography, share those with us. We would love to hear from you. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you guys at a game later this week.